Howdy there, YouTube. So I got this CM046. I'm going to go ahead and put the very bizarre unboxing video right here. It was kind of a crazy deal getting this thing out of the box, but now that I do have it out of the box and had some time to mess around with it, it does appear, it does work. It just had a BB jammed in the barrel, but it seems like the BB must have been jammed in such a way that the air nozzle has been damaged by hitting that BB. So it does shoot, but they kind of shoot all over the place, and sometimes it doesn't pick them up, and so it's got some issues inside. So, and I also picked up this PBS4 replica, and it's a US version, so it's got the solid tube inside, but that can be messed with as necessary. But I've never really documented a build on one of my airsoft guns before, and I'd really like to, because I'd like to know what's put in it, because once it's built I can never remember. So this is more for me than for you, but if you get something out of it, then that's great. So I do have this, and it does add weight to the end. It's really not meant for this, it's meant for the the short barrel guys, but it's kind of a neat accessory. I probably won't end up using it if I play with it, but I did end up scoring a Prometheus stainless barrel, 455 millimeters, so it won't extend out, so I don't need to run that anyway. There will be nothing to cover up. I got a Pt.1 hop-up unit, which I've already got some of the other components put on it. It doesn't come, it comes stripped, and some of these holes and threads aren't the same, so I might end up changing that around, but I'll be sure to show that. So got that. Then I've got this SAT air nozzle. It's got the kind of block so it sits on the tappet plate properly, and so that'll be kind of interesting to try. I was going to get one of the Retro Arms adjustable air nozzles, and I still might end up doing that. I'm not sure yet, so this stuff is going to take time to come in. Then I got one of these Modify baton buckings and nub, so that's going to go with this. And so I figure with all this stuff in combination, it should be a pretty good front end of the gun, and that's what I'm going to start working on. I'm going to leave the externals exactly the way it looks, except for the wood. I'm probably going to strip and restain the wood. I don't like the color, it's not right, it doesn't look right, and that's easy enough to do for me, so I'm going to do that. But otherwise, externally, I'm going to leave it exactly like this. I'm not going to distress it because it's going to get like that anyway. Or maybe not. I'm pretty good with not bashing my gun around. You know, this is a critical piece of combat componentry. You shouldn't be leading with your rifle. You lead with your body. The rifle's more important than you are. So I do have this gearbox that I had in that short-barreled AK that I was going to turn into Polypanther, but just ended up building Polypanther out of nothing. And it's got a bunch of upgrades already done to it. It's got a polycarbonate piston, a CNC air nozzle, and front end dealio, just a stock motor. But this is, I think it's a Lancer Tactical. It came in a parts lot, but it looks like a Lancer Tactical. And I got one of those Retro Arms triggers coming, so that's one thing that will look different. It'll have a red trigger because that's the only color I could get. That's what the guy had. So it'll have a red Retro Arms trigger to kind of give away that it's not a stock gun. And I'm not sure about this blowback. It's pretty weak. I mean, it's really weak. It's kind of clunky and noisy and just kind of a weak tap, 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 tap. And I don't think I need that. So I'll probably end up not putting that back in. And this gearbox doesn't have any way to run it anyway. So I don't know, maybe I'll reuse this gearbox using parts from this one. Maybe I'll just build this one and put it in this one. I haven't decided this part yet. But as far as this part goes, you're looking at it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and probably put it back together. I'll probably get to see that this air nozzle is in not good shape, but that'll come up when I'm taking it apart. It might just be that the hop-up got damaged. Like I said, I haven't even looked at this thing. I just put a battery in it, shot some BBs through it, and it shot. And then I kind of noticed that it wasn't exactly loading as well as it should, even though the magazine was fine. So I'm not sure if I'm going to add it to this video or if it's going to be a separate video, but that's for myself, and if you care to watch, that's going to be this section. And I've got the slant muzzle brake taken off, so that's probably what I'll run with it. But this is just kind of for demonstration purposes. And this is one of those Mad Bull ones. It's kind of cool. It's got the Cyrillic writing on it. Although from what I hear, it's not accurate, but who cares about that? It looks cool. Can't read it anyway, so it doesn't matter what it says. So, that's that. So, I'm going to say thanks for watching and see you next time, but there's probably going to be stuff at the end of this. So, thanks for watching and see you next time. Okay, so since this is a build documentation for this gun, I went ahead and did a breakdown for the prices for the parts. The gun itself cost me 114 bucks. They're about 190 to 200 bucks. Looks like on eVic the last time they had them was 190 bucks, which is a good price. I would have bought them for that even. The Burst Wizard 3 I got for 20 bucks on eBay. They go for about 50 bucks. They're $49.99. The Prometheus Barrel was $28.27, and that was with shipping. See, that's the problem with these prices. They don't reflect shipping, but these were all the shipped prices. So it was $28.27. They're 65 bucks. The Pro-Win hop-up unit was 14 bucks. They were 35 bucks. Retro Arms trigger was $1 more. Not much savings there. The gears I probably could have done a little better on, but I didn't want to wait for them to come from China or wherever, Taiwan. The PBS4 I got for 50 bucks, and they're about $65 and up. So the donor gearbox is free, so those parts that were included I didn't really count for anything. So my total so far for this build is $272, and it would have, if I would have paid retail, would have been up to $460 already before. And you know I'm gonna run into problems, and you know I'm gonna have to buy more parts. But I figure probably for about 300 bucks, maybe a little more. I would even say maybe the budget, I'll set the budget at 350. So that gives me about 70 more bucks to buy stuff. And the PBS4 I didn't even need. But I've been looking at getting ones, and I have some shorter barrel ones that it might work with, so that wasn't really that big a deal, although it kind of screws the budget. So for 350 bucks, I'm already way ahead. Way ahead. So I know that that's retail and, you know, blah blah blah, but this is all new stuff. It's never even been used. So I have a good feeling that all this is going to work out as long as the setup is right. And I know you have to make adjustments. That's just part of Airsoft, building. Okay, so that wasn't a cut. Well, it was a cut, but it's not the end of the video. So one thing that I wanted to do with this AK to make it a little bit different than any of my other builds is that I wanted to make it so that it had an accurate rate of fire. And you might ask yourself, well, how the heck are you going to do that? Well, what I'm going to use is this Burst Wizard 3. And I had no intention of doing this before I got this or learned how it worked. And I just had to run through the instructions a couple times because it's not really like that intuitive at first. But once you get it, you get it. And I might show that in a different video. But what I want to demonstrate on this is how to achieve your rate of fire lowering with the Super Kong 3, or Burst Wizard 3. And this is a number 2. And I like this one as well. But what you can do with this number 3 is you can adjust the rate of fire as a percentage of the total. So you can adjust it way down. And what I have it adjusted right now to be as low as it'll go. And this is just one of those cheapy plastic gearbox MP7s. Just because I like to adjust it on something that is not critical, because there is certain settings on here where I'm afraid you could either burn out your, because this isn't set up as a MOSFET like this, you could burn out your trigger switch, you could burn out your motor, you can do all kinds of nasty things if you have this thing set up improperly. So I have one of these just to burn up. So I can just sit there and tinker with it, manipulate the settings, etc. So what I'll do here, I can't do it on camera because it's kind of difficult to plug in all this stuff, is I'll hook up a battery to it with the Kong Super 2, so I'll demonstrate that, and it's just basic setting, and then I'll plug in the 3 with the extreme rate of fire reduction setting, and so you can see what I'm talking about. And what's interesting is that with the setting set down to the lowest level, is you can really tell whether or not your gear set is working properly, what your motor's doing. You can assess a lot of the different problems. If the piston head has become detached or is doing something funny, you can tell with the rate of fire lowered down really low. And I always said that these had some problem with their gears, and this really demonstrates it, because when you run it through a few cycles, it gets a hitch in it. And that hitch is what's wrong with the gears in here. And if you run into that with a regular gearbox, then you can do a lot of assessing, you know, shimming problems. You can deal with, you know, the rate of amperage going to the thing, and that's another tool that I've been using, but I want to show this one real quick. I'm getting off track, so let me plug it in and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've cleared this thing. There's no BBs in it, there's no magazine in it, and I've made sure to shoot it a few times to make sure there's no BBs going anywhere I don't want them to go, and that's really important that you use safety when you're playing around with this stuff, everybody. No matter how experienced you are, you need to make sure the thing is empty, because even an airsoft gun, if it discharges when you're not expecting it, can do really bad damage to you or your wife's property, so don't do it. Anyway, so this is the Super 2 plugged in, just the way that it comes from the factory. Reset to number 15. So it'll give you a 2-round burst, and then if you do a 2-round burst and hold the trigger, it'll go back to full auto. And you can set that delay between them. But that's the regular rate of fire with a 7.4 volt LiPo. So now I'm going to cut it and put on it with the rate reduction. Okay, so I don't have the burst set up at the low rate, so it'll fire the first burst, 2-round burst, fast, and then it'll slow down subsequent full auto. So here's that demonstrated. So in that way you can slow down the rate of fire to match what the actual gun would have fired. So with the AK, you know, it varies with the ammo and the different models, etc. But I'll figure out a good in between, and I have a chronograph with a rounds per second counter, so I can calculate that. So I was going to try to see if I could get this thing to do its stutter step, and I bet I can if I just hold the trigger down. Nope, won't do it. Of course not. Of course when I need it to do it, it won't do it. But it does. It's every 60 to 80 revolutions, the thing will hit some kind of snag and it'll just... So that's that. So I'm going to use that on that AK. I haven't come up with a build name for it yet, but I want to use it so that I can get the AK to be a regular shooting rate, so it's just not... Because I could easily do that, and I've done it, and I'm kind of tired of it. So I got a high torque RTQ Raptor setup, the one that has the bearings in the middle, and I've heard different things about it, so I figured I might as well try it. So that'll be that, so it'll even be easier to control the rate of fire because it'll be slower off the bat from the motor, if you know what I'm saying. So anyway, I think that's going to be it for now. I'm going to go ahead and throw these parts in the AK, but I think I'm going to save that for a different episode because I have other stuff to do today. So with this final, thanks for watching, and see you next time.